By 3 in the afternoon, the clouds over Vancouver had settled into their usual compromise, not dramatic enough to be a storm, not thin enough to be called clearing, just a low, gray lid holding the light down. Evelyn's apartment matched it, muted, tidy, edges softened by the kind of lived-in order that came from spending too much time inside the same four walls. 2 monitors, a standing lamp, a plant that refused to die in weak light. A mug with the logo of a global pharmaceutical company ringed at the bottom with a faint stain of too much reheated coffee. Her job title, somewhere in the HR system, was Senior Market Consultant, Global Strategy. In practice, it meant she sat in front of these screens and told people far away what patients might think, how doctors might react, and which words would upset the fewest lawyers. It also meant no one cared what hours she kept, as long as her decks hit inboxes before the right meetings. Right now, one of those decks was open on her left monitor. Slides about patient adherence in North America, bullet points about messaging fatigue, a half-finished chart she was supposed to label. She had been staring at the same sentence for 6 minutes without reading it. On the right monitor, a browser tab waited, minimized but not forgotten. She clicked it open. The article headline at the top of the page was breathless in the way tech logs tended to be when they got to a story half a beat too late. Popular VTubers channel wiped overnight. RG, stunt, or something else. Evelyn resisted the urge to roll her eyes. Something else was the internet's favorite phrase for I have no information but refuse to admit it. She skimmed. Most of it was fluff, screenshots, embedded tweets, a few clips pulled from social media. Somewhere near the middle, jammed between 2 looping pictures, a short paragraph caught her eye. Several users report seeing a white flicker page or partial text while refreshing the channel shortly after the takedown. One viewer has started a minimal forum to collect reports. Of course they have, she muttered. The link below it was small, almost apologetic, no branding, no SEO slug, just a bare URL. She clicked. The new page that loaded was almost aggressively plain. White background, default fonts, 1 thread. Thread 1, strange glitch during channel removal. No logo, no dark mode, no emoji reactions. It reminded her of early intranet tools at one of her first consulting clients. Functional, temporary, not designed to last. She read the first post. Did anyone else see a white flicker when Echo's channel went down? Mine flashed a partial phrase before the error loaded, not sure if it was caching or something else, curious if anyone else saw it. Evelyn rested her elbow on the desk and cupped her jaw in the heel of her hand. Echo Nocturne, she said under her breath, mostly to test the weight of the name out loud. VTubers, too much parasocial attachment in one place, too many people convinced they knew someone they would never meet. But a complete wipe? No archive, no profile, no cache thumbnail. That was unusual. Not unheard of, just higher effort than most platforms like to expend. She scrolled. London, I saw the same thing. Sao Paulo, white flicker here too. She rocked back in her chair, the old office cushion underneath complaining faintly. So they'd organized. Of course they had. Give the internet a mystery and it would build a committee. Her cursor drifted to the tab bar. Another tab sat open to her work email. A third showed an analytics dashboard from a patient education campaign in Europe, tiny line graphs climbing and dipping in soft corporate blues. She should have been thinking about adherence curves and dose schedules. Instead, she clicked the clip from Sao Paulo. A little video player popped up. The quality was mediocre, artifacting around high contrast lines, but there was enough. The stylized avatar, pale hair, violet-tinged lighting, lantern glow behind, a bow, a dip, blackout. Evelyn watched without audio first, old habit. Let the eyes work alone. Something about the timing snagged, not wrong exactly, just tightly stacked. Bow, hair drop, light flicker, cut. Too many events nested too close together. She replayed from a second earlier, this time with sound at low volume. There it was, something under the voice, a little spike of noise, gone almost before she could classify it. Her fingers twitched on the desk, tiny involuntary motion, irritation. Sloppy file, bad capture, of course. She closed the player. On the forum, the posts continued down the timeline, people mentioning a weird breath, physics drop, hair falling wrong. The gap between when these people had seen the stream almost a full day. She was coming in after the fact, which she preferred, less emotion, more data. What she did not prefer was watching people whip themselves into a frenzy over artifacts they barely understood. Her jaw tightened again. She scrolled back to the top of the thread and read the first post one more time. White page flicker, partial phrase, error load. She had seen that sequence a dozen times on internal dashboards and internal documentation that never left certain networks. Content came down fast, placeholder pages caught the hit. Caches showed seams if you refreshed at precisely the wrong moment. There were explanations, not always reassuring ones, but explanations. Her index finger tapped a staccato rhythm against the desk. People loved gaps, loved holes in stories they could pour their own narratives into. She had built entire professional decks around that human quirk, how to anticipate where minds would leap and gently fence them in with the right information. This thread was a classic vacuum. If she said nothing, the usual gravity would take over. Conspiracy, supernatural, RG, staged disappearance. She didn't care whether Echo's fans slept better. But she did care about what happened when large crowds got bored of nuance. Her cursor clicked into the post box. She hesitated for a heartbeat, then typed the name she'd picked up years ago, almost at random. It bore no resemblance to the one on her passport. Username Glass Harbor. She thought, not for the first time, that it was a little too on the nose. Then again, most handles were. People named themselves after what they wished they were, not what they were. The text field blinked. She typed. Pages sometimes flash placeholders when content gets removed quickly. Caching can cause partial loads, just one possibility. She reread it once, neutral, non-committal, technical but not so technical that anyone would probe her for credentials. Her thumb hovered over enter as if it were a chat app on her phone instead of a keyboard under her hand, old muscle memory. She hit post. The page refreshed, her words slotted into the log. She took a breath, hadn't realized she'd been holding, and reached for her mug. The coffee had cooled into a temperature that didn't match any reasonable category. Not hot, not iced, just tired. She set it aside. Her work email tab pinged gently in the background. A product manager in Zurich wanted updated copy suggestions for a slide about patient empowerment. Someone in New Jersey had sent a calendar invite for a meeting at would be 5 a.m. her time. The time zone math was terrible. The assumption that she might accept it was worse. She closed the notification pop-ups without reading them fully and returned to the clip. This time she downloaded it. The file name was something charmingly chaotic. She dropped it into a local folder and opened it in a more serious player. Muted the audio, stepped through frame by frame. Lantern bow hair. She let her eyes skim over the motion. They are one frame where the hair seemed to compress just a fraction of a second faster than it should have. It could have been encoding, it could have been sharpened filters, it could have been nothing. She played it again with audio. When the breath came, a little burst of sound under the final words, her shoulders stiffened. It was too close to the mic for comfort, too sharp, not the long-distance, diffuse sound of a streamer leaning in, closer, more intrusive. Her mind began to do what it always did when something sat on the edge of tolerable ambiguity, build trees of possibilities. Mic bump, chairlift, someone off camera leaning into range, gain spike, compressor misbehavior. Test phrase she'd once heard in a white paper, unexpected proximal event. She hated that phrase. It covered everything and explained nothing. She remembered one of the earlier posts on the thread. Is anyone getting audio anomalies at the very end? My recording has a weird breath right before the blackout. She read it twice. At least someone else had heard it. Her teeth met slightly. She could almost feel her brain trying to split into two different directions, one part cataloging plausible technical causes, another tracing the contour of risk in that little breath-shaped blip. She swiveled her chair a few degrees, the casters humming on the cheap laminate flooring, and stared at her own reflection in the darkened corner of the window. A faint outline, nothing distinct. Don't be dramatic, she told the reflection softly. Not a rebuke, a calibration. She turned back to the forum and clicked reply again. Her fingers hovered above the keys. She could say nothing, let the others spiral. The world wouldn't end because a few hundred people convinced themselves something sinister had happened on a stream. She started typing. Gain issues or sudden CPU load can cause isolated noise spikes too, but the combo with sync offset is uncommon. No reassurance, no denial, just a small acknowledgement that yes, this wasn't the typical kind of glitch. She hit post. Her handle appeared again, 2 calm comments in a sea of rising agitation. She sat back. From the hallway outside her apartment, someone's footsteps approached, then faded past, neighbors she'd never bothered to name. A bus exhaled somewhere down the street. The faint hiss of drizzle brushed against the window pane. On her left monitor, her slide deck waited with blank bulleted lines. On her right, the forum thread, now full of names and times and small, sharp observations. She scrolled up and down slowly, assembling a picture. Northbridge had the flicker, London fog too. Vale Cruise had the clip. Meridian Line was almost mapping timestamps. She recognized the cadence of someone who thought in rows and columns. Sundown was mentioning spectrograms. A small, reluctant smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. For all its noise, the internet sometimes did what research teams took weeks to organize. "This is how it starts," she murmured. "Everyone chasing shadows with half the lights on." She decided not to post any more. 2 comments were enough. She had no interest in becoming a fixture here. Instead, she bookmarked the thread, a tiny practical action, a placeholder for later. She closed the browser, reopened her pharma slides, and forced her mind back onto a sentence about holistic patient journeys that meant almost nothing. Her cursor blinked at the end of the line. Outside, the clouds pressed closer and a thin rain finally started, gentle and steady against the glass. Inside, somewhere in a folder she hadn't labeled as carefully as she should have, a copy of Echo's last 30 seconds sat waiting. In another tab, invisible but present, a small white forum with one thread continued to collect observations from people who didn't know anything about one another and far less about her. Evelyn adjusted the height of her chair by a single notch. Work first, slides first, deadlines first. She would check back on that thread later, just to see where the explanations drifted.